All right, let's dive into a stack of sources today. We're looking at something famously hard to see, the F-22 Raptor and its stealth.
Yeah, it's radar signature specifically.
Exactly. So our mission really is to unpack this material, understand what actually makes it so difficult to spot on radar.
And there are some pretty interesting details in these sources, numbers, comparisons.
Definitely. So when we talk stealth here, the sources really zero in on radar cross-section, right? RCS.
That's the one, RCS. It's basically, how big an object appears on a radar screen, how much energy it reflects back.
Got it. And the sources jump right in with a number, the F-22. It's pretty mind-blowing.
The figure you see quoted a lot is around 0.00001 square meters.
0.00001. Okay, that sounds incredibly small.
It is. And to really get a feel for it, one source uses this fantastic analogy. It says, stop thinking jet, think. Small metal marble.
A marble. Okay, yeah, that paints a picture. Really small.
But it's important, and the material points this out, that data and opinions on that exact number, they do vary a bit. It's not like one single universally agreed upon figure.
Right. Typical for these kinds of advanced specs, I suppose.
Yeah.
So tiny, maybe marble-sized.
Yeah.
How does it compare to other stealth planes?
Well, the sources mention it's definitely smaller than the F-117 Nighthawk signature.
Which was the original game changer.
Exactly. And they put it somewhere kind of in the same league as the B-2 Spirit Bombers RCS. So, very, very low, elite company.
Okay, so incredibly stealthy, comparable maybe to a B-2. But you mentioned the number isn't fixed. What else affects it?
Yeah, it's not static. A huge factor, according to the documentation, is the aircraft's orientation, its angle relative to the radar that's looking for it.
Ah, right. Like how something flat can almost disappear if you see it edge on.
Precisely. The F-22's shaping is all about deflecting radar waves away from the source, especially from the front and sides. So as it maneuvers, its effective RCS changes depending on where the radar is.
Makes sense. What else?
The radar itself is crucial. The sources really emphasize this. Things like the radar's frequency band, its power, its processing. Basically, different types of radar will have very different results trying to find an F-22.
Okay. And the sources break that down, how different radars might see it.
They do. It gets quite interesting here. They suggest that some search radars, the ones scanning big areas, might possibly detect sort of hints, fleeting blips maybe, perhaps out to around 50 miles.
50 miles for just a hint. Okay.
But, and this is the critical part highlighted, the actual tracking radars, the ones needed to get a solid lock for, say, guiding a missile.
Yeah.
They have a much, much harder job. The material suggests they might really struggle to get a stable lock until the F-22 is way closer, maybe below 10 to 20 miles.
10 to 20 miles.
And then there's that kicker, if that.
If that. So, best case, maybe 10, 20 miles for a lock, maybe not even then.
Yeah.
That's extremely close for air combat.
It really is. So you might get a faint flicker on a search radar further out, but the system needed to actually engage. It might be practically blind until the last moments. Or maybe can't lock on reliably at all.
So that combination, tiny RCS, the angle thing, and how it affects different types of radar, that's the core challenge.
That's what these sources strongly imply. Getting a stable fire control quality track on something potentially marble size that might only become reliably visible, if ever, at very short ranges. It just fundamentally messes with traditional air defense timelines and engagement strategies.
Okay. So summing up from this material, the main takeaway seems to be the F-22's radar signature is engineered down to an incredibly small level, yes, marble-sized perhaps, but seeing it isn't 0 or 1. It's complex. It depends on the angle and, critically, on what kind of radar you're using and how far away you are.
Exactly. And that leads to the final thought, really, drawn from this material. If those tracking radars, the crucial ones, might not get a lock until it's almost on top of you, or potentially not lock reliably at all, what does that actually mean for conventional air defense? For strategies that rely on detecting and locking targets much further out, what questions does that raise for you, thinking about modern air combat?
Definitely food for thought based on what we've covered here. Makes you reconsider the whole engagement scenario.